So Sarah Beth, it's really good to see you. It's really, really good to see you today.
I didn't think I was going to make it.
I know. I wondered that might be what was going on because we're about 20 minutes into our visit time, and I worry. We've talked about this before, and again, it totally makes sense to me, and you know it does. We've worked together now for a couple of months, so you know we've talked about this, and I'm 100% understanding of how hard it is for you to get here. It's really hard. So I'm guessing that it might have been really hard for you today to get here.
It was.
It was hard. Yeah. So what was it that made it difficult for you to get here today?
I just had a rough morning. I drank way too much last night. My ex called me, and I just woke up this morning and just wanted everything to go away and didn't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I knew you were going to make me talk about everything that happened yesterday, and I just didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah. This is all the more reason why I'm so happy you're here and that you came anyway. This is terrific. This is terrific. And by the way, I'm not going to make you do anything here. That's just not going to happen.
No, we won't have time to talk about anything. It's my fault. And just that I always do this. Always.
You always do what?
Just do this. Not go to things, not show up, not deal with my problems.
Yeah, this is something that is one of your habits that we've talked about. That if we can change this habit, it will help you change how depressed you are and how anxious you are. So this is exactly where you should be. And this is exactly as it needs to be. Because this is exactly the kind of thing that we need to try to change. So I'm really glad in some ways that this is happening because it gives us a chance to work on this together.
Good.
So being late is being late, and it's nothing to get us stuck on in terms of like, oh no, you're late. It's not that that's a bad thing. In this case, it's actually really relevant because, as you say, this is something that goes on in your life.
Right.
Yeah. So you know how we've talked before about when there are things that are interfering with, not on purpose, but things that are inadvertently interfering with your own therapy, that we'll talk about them.
Mm-hmm. I remember you said that at the beginning.
Yeah. So this, I think, is just one of those times. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to just take a few minutes and talk a little bit about this, and we can problem solve and we can figure this out.
Okay.
So it makes sense, because this is what happens.
It totally does.
It totally does. It totally makes sense, 100% sense. This is a pattern that's been going on for forever. For how many years?
29 years.
29 years this has been going on. Yeah. And when you have had a night of drinking, like anybody who has a night of drinking, you probably don't sleep very well.
Yeah, I know.
And then this morning, how did you feel when you got up?
Shitty.
Yeah. Like physically shitty?
Mm-hmm.
And how much sleep did you get last night?
I was tossing and turning, and the room was spinning, and I woke up a couple of times.
Okay. And it's not as though you drink every single night. This is like one of these things that happens every now and then, but we know that when it happens, it certainly makes it difficult for you the next day to get out and about and live your life in a way that you really value living it. Which, by the way, is why I'm so glad you're here. Go ahead, you were going to say something.
It just makes everything a lot worse.
It makes everything a lot harder.
I felt so much more worse than
Right. So one thing we could later on in the session talk about is what led up to drinking, and we could try to see if there's anything there to work on. We also could talk some about sleep and making sure that your sleep is really getting better. So that's at least two different things we could talk about later. But before we do those things, let's kind of keep talking about what else happened this morning. So we know that avoidance or not coming to therapy is kind of like the tip of the iceberg, right? We see it, and so we can talk about it, but really it reflects what's bigger underneath the surface, which is this lifelong pattern of, kind of not living your life, not showing up, not living it in a way that matters to you, because you're instead avoiding and at home. Kind of, we've talked about this kind of like a turtle in its shell.
Mm-hmm.
You were turtling this morning.
It was.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this.